Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Community Corner, episode 11. This is Stephanie Lucrezio, Advocacy Liaison with Children's Health Defense, coming to you live today with an amazing guest with such timely information, with everything that's happening around the country, with the announcement of President Biden last week mandating 100 employees or more to get this injection. There's so many questions about the legal battles and what is happening behind the scenes here in the United States to preserve our bodily autonomy, to preserve our medical freedom, and to ensure that our generation and the generations of the future will be able to really live by that rally cry of my body, my choice, which is really something right now that is in question in so many places. So we are so excited to come to you with our guest today with some breaking news. We have lots of great updates for you later on in the show with the New York City rally, with Walkout Week, but we want to get right to our guest today. So I'm going to turn it over to Aimee Villela-McBride, my beautiful co-host, to bring on our very special guest.
Welcome, everyone. We are so excited to have this show today and to have Mary Holland with us as our guest. We have the most important updates to bring you and could not come at a more important time. So Mary Holland is our president and general counsel for Children's Health Defense, and she's a human rights activist. She's a former research scholar and director of the graduate lawyering program at NYU School of Law. She was educated at Harvard and Columbia Universities, and she's worked internationally in public and private law and spent time working for major law firms, both here in the States and abroad. Mary has testified to retain or expand vaccination exemptions in a number of states. She's appeared in several documentary programs, and she's written several law review articles, blog posts on vaccine law and policy. And she's also the co-author and co-editor of the books Vaccine Epidemic and HPV Vaccine on Trial, Seeking Justice for a Generation and Beyond. We are thrilled to have Mary on. There are so many important legal updates that we want to get to in the show and a lot of breaking news. So welcome, Mary. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're so happy to have you.
Come at a more important time. So why don't we start with this breaking news? You know, we were just preparing to get into our interview with Mary, and literally moments ago, there is now breaking news that's really amazing.
So this is really exciting. So you're breaking it here first, as far as I know. So for the first federal court has just granted a temporary restraining order in New York to stop the deprivation of religious exemptions for healthcare workers. So as you probably know, healthcare workers in New York were being forced to get shots by September 27th or lose their jobs, and they were being told that they could not assert religious exemptions. And Liberty Counsel and the Thomas More Society today got an order from Judge David Hurd in the Northern District Court of New York, who said that the healthcare workers could not be deprived of their right to religious exemptions, and that was unconstitutional. So I'm literally just studying the order now. I'm just reading the press release, but I've just texted this out to the healthcare workers that I know who are beside themselves, ladies, and to the lawyers who are working on this. We are working on this issue as well. I sent it to my friends who are working in nursing homes. This is a huge first victory, and we are so grateful to our colleagues at Liberty Counsel and the Thomas More Society for having filed this and having won. This is a great breakthrough, you guys. This is the first big breakthrough, I would say, on these mandates, and coming against Governor Hochul, who's just taken the helm. And so this is against what she's done. And this clearly is a shot across the bow to President Biden that, you know, you're not in a lawless world. There are going to be judges. And I'm a lawyer. I clerked for a federal judge when I got out of law school. I believe in the rule of law. I believe that law is absolutely necessary. And so when I see government officials doing things that clearly go beyond their legal authority, it just is a punch in the gut. And I'm so thrilled to see a federal judge stand up now and say, nope, sorry, gone too far, pull it back. So this is a happy day for us.
Amazing, amazing news. I mean, so many healthcare workers, you know, their jobs on their line, their livelihood on the line, their health potentially on the line, to have this unconstitutional rule where the New York State Department of Health, just behind closed doors, wanted to say no more religious exemptions. So this is phenomenal news. And we're
fantastic news. This is truly fantastic news. Well, we'll see. You know, it'll be very interesting to see. So is the Department of Health going to appeal this? Or is the Department of Health going to sort of say, okay, maybe we went too far. We'll let people have religious exemptions. We'll just make a policy of denying them. It's very interesting to see how these things play out. We don't really know what their next move is going to be. They probably don't know. They probably didn't expect that a temporary restraining order is a very high bar, right? It's very hard for a judge to say, I'm going to stop government action in its tracks because it's illegal. It's a lot for one individual to go up against, the state. So this is really a real triumph today. And I'm just so proud of my colleagues at Liberty Counsel and Thomas More Society for filing this and doing it in such a competent way and winning.
So for the other suits that were underway in the state, I know there were other class actions, other attorneys were working on it. A win for one is a win for all, correct, with the TRO?
This is a big win. This is a big win. And certainly, other people, we were working on a case on behalf of healthcare workers. I think we need to read the order from the judge carefully. I think we need to understand exactly where the terrain is. Honestly, I haven't had a chance. It just came out today. I think it just came out within, the last hour. But certainly this is a great step in the right direction. This is being framed in religious terms. We all know that this goes beyond religion. This is about medical exemptions. This is about informed consent. But this is definitely a step in the right direction. And our Constitution, given about our God-given rights, the First Amendment is about our free exercise of religion and no establishment of religion. So this is at the core of our founding document. And so this is just great news today. This is just really great news. So happy to be able to share it with you both and with your viewers.
I'm so excited to be able to share it too, because I have to tell you, after yesterday, my phone has been ringing. And with the teachers' deadline coming up September 27th, I'm hoping that this will be like a little beacon of light.
Oh, it will. So, for sure, they didn't, what I understand has been happening with the teachers, Stephanie, is they didn't explicitly remove it the way they did for healthcare workers. They basically have been, not granting religious or making people jump through hoops, humiliating them and so on. I mean, this may be a wake-up call now for the Department of Education of you can't sort of play around with people's religious exemptions. So this is very exciting. And, a prior case had been brought by, I believe it was We the Patriots on Long Island on behalf of 2 nurses. That was denied. So this is just great news. This is great news for us across the country.
Excellent. So stay tuned, guys, as we read through this order. We dig in a little deeper and we'll share more information as we learn more on this amazing news in TRO. So let's keep going, Mary. I know everyone is so concerned after last week's press conference that President Biden held on Thursday, these sweeping and unprecedented mandates. It seems like the hits just keep coming. But we also filed a major lawsuit just last week or so against the FDA. And this is huge news. So I wanted to share that with our audience as well. If you can talk a little bit about the whole bait and switch approval that happened and our case that has now been filed and where we stand with that against the FDA.
So we have many concerns about the COVID shots. We filed a petition with the FDA in May. It was filed by filed on behalf of Children's Health Defense by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., our chair, and by Dr. Merrill Nass on our scientific advisory committee. And it outlined many, many, many concerns relating to COVID shots. And we actually called for the withdrawal of all of the emergency use authorizations for the 3 COVID shots and for the FDA to refrain from licensure. When on August 23rd, they licensed Pfizer Comirnaty vaccine, that gave us the opportunity to say, okay, the FDA has essentially responded to us, and they sent us a letter on the 23rd as well, rejecting our petition. That gave us the opportunity in terms of administrative law to go and file. So we filed a case in the Eastern District of Tennessee, and we actually did file for a temporary restraining order to stop the bait and switch that basically Pfizer got a license for the Comirnaty vaccine, which is unavailable in the United States. And then they're saying, oh, but our Pfizer BioNTech vaccines that are emergency use authorization are interchangeable and they should be used. And so we argued basically this fraud is being perpetrated on people in the military who now, because of this licensure, must be vaccinated immediately. And we included with our complaint a declaration from our military writer, Pam Long, where she detailed the kinds of discrimination and the kinds of oppression and the kinds of fraud that are happening to people in the military. The judge rejected the temporary restraining order. That's, as I said, it's a very high bar. We weren't shocked by that in any way. But what was very clear to us is we're going to need to give the judge direct evidence of the kinds of wrongful things that are happening to people in the military in this bait and switch, where they're trying to say, oh, it's licensed, but then they don't make the licensed vaccine available. So we are right now collecting declarations from people across the military services, across the country, across all the ranks in the military. And I have to tell you, ladies, it's just extraordinary what's happening to people in the military, the way in which they're being coerced and put under duress and threatened with their livelihoods and threatened with dishonorable discharge and being isolated and being threatened even with being strapped down. In the military, there are not the same rights as there are in the civilian population. And I've received from them regulations that would permit the military to actually strap people down and use the minimum force required to actually vaccinate people against their will. So we will be going back to the court, and we have many more issues with the vaccines, both the EUAs and the licensed products, but we started with this bait and switch that is immediately impacting people in the military.
Wow. That is just awful. That made my stomach turn to think about that, the brute force that they can use. So I think one question a lot of people have, so obviously they realize, there's the two products out there simultaneously, one with EUA approval, one now licensed. The general public is now thinking they're getting a licensed version, but they're not, because Comirnaty is not out there in mass distribution. So can you explain the real world difference in terms of liability between the two, in terms of whether it's NVIC covered or PrEP Act, and what that really means for the public out there who's just not paying attention and may sign up now to take one of these?
And let me just say one more thing. I'll come to the liability protection, which is so important. But let me just say that President Biden said, what are you waiting for? If you haven't taken your vaccine yet, what are you waiting for? I mean, the Comirnaty licensed vaccine is unavailable in the United States. And what's available from Pfizer is emergency use. What's available from Johnson & Johnson is emergency use. And what's available from Moderna is emergency use. Federal law says that if a product is emergency use, whether it's a vaccine or a drug or any other medical device, you have the right to refuse. Why? This comes out of the fundamental idea of informed consent. You cannot be subjected against your will to an experimental medical product. You can't be coerced. You can't be under duress. You can't be defrauded. You can't not have competence. What is being done is so egregious. It's really, it's hard to overstate how egregious what that representation is like, what are you waiting for? There's nothing to wait for. Okay, so what's the difference? So one of the things that the Pfizer letters, the FDA letter to Pfizer BioNTech and the FDA letter to Pfizer, one of the things that they say is these products are interchangeable, Comirnaty, Pfizer, BioNTech, but they're legally distinct. So they're acknowledging that there is a difference between these in terms of the law. So both of them right now only they are both covered legally by the PrEP Act. Neither one of them is covered by the compensation program under the 1986 Act. Both of them for now are only covered by the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program. This is an unconstitutional program. Lawyers and people in Congress have been saying this since it was passed in 2005 after 9/11 and in the context of the anthrax vaccine and anthrax scare. This is a program under Health and Human Services. You have 1 year to file your complaint. There is no provision for legal fees. It is completely on the papers. There is no opportunity to go and argue your case. There is no right of discovery. It is based on science prepared by HHS, who's obviously behind the whole vaccine program, to decide whether or not your claim is actually a valid injury according to the science from the COVID shot. This tribunal, this compensation program has existed since 2005. To date, based on Freedom of Information Act requests, we believe that it has compensated 3% of all claims that have been filed with it. For the claims that have been filed so far for COVID injury, we understand that there have been 0 compensation packages given. For those in the past that were given, I believe the average or I don't know the full details. It's not a lot of money, okay? From my standpoint, the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program, which is under the 1986 National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act, that is a really bad program. But this one is orders of magnitude worse. If people have this idea that if they get paralyzed, if they get an autoimmune disorder, if they get cancer, if they die, that they are going to, or their loved ones are going to get compensation from this countermeasures injury compensation program, they are wrong. They are very unlikely to get any compensation. You are likely to be in a very difficult financial situation, as parents with vaccine injured children have been for decades. This is going to be very, very problematic. There's no right of appeal to an actual court. The only tiny window for actually getting to a court to appeal a denial of your claim is if you can show that some party, the vaccine manufacturer, the healthcare people, were engaged in willful misconduct. You would have to prove this by clear and convincing evidence. And the statute as written says you have to first go and get the Department of Justice or Health and Human Services to agree with you that that there was something wrong, and they will have already brought a law enforcement action against that party. In other words, and 3 judges. You'd have to do this before 3 judges, not 1. I mean, this is as much of a wall towards any kind of accountability as you could possibly build. And we think that this is unconstitutional, and it's definitely in our sights to try to contest this whole CICP disaster.
Yeah, it is definitely a disaster for sure. I mean, the good news is that since Biden made this announcement, we're seeing Republican governors come out. We've seen 27 states so far filing saying this is not something that can happen. What do you think about how that's going to go in the next couple of months? Because so many people are, very concerned. Like me being in New Jersey, I have 0 insulation right now from whatever President Biden is doing. People like Amy in Florida are a little bit safer. What advice would you give to people that are in these battleground states right now as all these legal things unfold in the background?
Well, everybody's circumstances are different, Stephanie. I mean, certainly people need to, stick with us, read The Defender, watch your show, connect with your tribe. I'm involved in a county level children's health defense group here where I am. I think people really need to sort of know who their friends are and ally with them. If you're facing job loss, it's very important. Do not quit. If you quit, you lose all rights. You won't get unemployment. You won't get reinstatement. You won't get back pay. You won't get a pension. It's inconceivable. You quit. You need to stick it out. And it's very unpleasant to be terminated, but that's how you preserve your rights. And that's how you show that you're being, that this is against your will, that this is, and so I'm hearing from people that there are these computer forms where you basically say, I'm leaving voluntarily. Of course, these companies don't want to have liability. They don't want to know what's going to happen legally 6 months from now. Don't check a box or don't sign anything that says, I'm leaving voluntarily. Say, I disclaim that this is voluntary. This is involuntary. And I believe that this is, against my constitutional rights.
Absolutely. And, that's the thing with people is hanging on, because we're seeing so many people right now just fold under the pressure of worrying about what's going to happen. And yesterday at the rally, I don't know if it was Dell or who said it. It was Dell. He said, you can't go to work. You can't do any of these things if you're dead. And it's truly like a life or death situation. And people don't recognize that, yes, your livelihood is important, but so is your health. So one of the things that we're seeing constantly is people being played with these religious exemptions. They're trying to fight back. They're trying to follow the protocol and do what they can based on the advice that they're being given. They're not getting straight answers. In many cases, they're being strung along and then ultimately denied at the last minute, right before the deadlines. We see it with the college mandates, and we're now seeing it with the employer mandates. What do you suggest people do if they file a religious exemption and it's denied? Should they at that point seek legal counsel? Are there class action lawsuits being filed? Like, what are you seeing happen based on all these denials that are coming back?
Well, I think if somebody, again, every situation is particular, but if you have submitted a religious exemption and it was denied, first ask, is there a right of appeal? On the appeal, if you can, I think it's valuable to include clergy. You should not have to do that. That is unconstitutional, but let's be real. If you want to sort of make a stronger case to an institution, it's going to be much harder for them to reject a religious exemption that is signed off on by a religious leader. There are many religious leaders who are in support of people having the right to object on religious grounds. Among them, Dr. Aaron Lewis, who spoke yesterday in New York and who is working with Children's Health Defense on issues of, reaching out to communities of faith. So I would encourage people to appeal. If they tell you there's no appeal, you should definitely tell the institution, I plan to pursue my legal options. I plan to seek legal representation to contest your rejection of my religious exemption. And we are working very hard to create a kind of legal forum where we can bring on board lots of lawyers. You can write to CHD at childrenshealthdefense.org now, and we do our very best to find people representation. We are in touch with lawyers across the country and literally around the world, and we will try. I can't guarantee, but we will certainly try to connect you to a lawyer that might be willing to take on your case. That doesn't mean it would be for free. It doesn't mean that we can definitely find you someone, but we will try.
That's all we can promise, is that we'll try. And you know what? Working here now and seeing how many messages come in every day, it's remarkable. All the people that are in touch with us and how broad our audience is growing every single month. So one of the things that we're hearing a lot about is also these mask mandates. I mean, parents are literally up in arms, storming their Board of Education meetings. They're requiring them in all types of places without any science or data to really back it up. Can we talk a little bit about Sujata's lawsuit, what's happening right now, and how that's going to impact the different mandates that we're seeing, especially in these larger Democratic cities?
So Children's Health Defense with lead attorney Sujata Gibson has brought 2 mask cases. One is now moot because the governor, Hochul, actually, before it was necessary to do so, she retracted that blanket mask mandate. So that's very exciting. We do believe that was in large part based on our lawsuit saying that it was discriminatory just to have masks for people who are unvaccinated. We've now brought a challenge on behalf of a child on Long Island who's about 10 years old, who has asthma and who has an anxiety issue. And she wore a mask all last year, and it was so awful and so traumatic. She lost weight. She had to use an inhaler repeatedly. And her medical exemption from her treating physician was rejected by the school district, Franklin School District, by a doctor who had never examined this child. We have other cases about the narrowing and outrageous rejection of medical exemptions in New York State schools by treating physicians. We believe that is absolutely unconstitutional. It goes against laws that are long established by the Supreme Court about the right to defend your life. This is about the right to life. And so the temporary restraining order was rejected. Again, we fully understand that that's a very high bar and that a judge may do that and it may not reflect on his later decisions. But that case is going forward. We have to have treating physicians be able to give mask mandates that will be respected by school districts. We also oppose mask mandates. And we are working with people in different jurisdictions to challenge mask mandates. If people want their kids to wear masks, fine. If people want to wear masks, no problem. But that can't be something, given how ineffective masks are and given that they are also emergency use authorization. And Sujata we make those arguments in our brief, which Robert Kennedy's on, I'm on as well as with Sujata. These are emergency use authorization products. They cannot be mandated. You must have the right to refusal. That's federal law.
I think people need to be reminded about the law sometimes. It seems like the biggest casualty of COVID is law and order and common sense, sadly enough.
Right.
The rule of law is absolutely under attack. As one person said to me yesterday at the rally, the world we live in now is, what are you going to do about it? And I think that's exactly right. I think that government officials at the state and federal level for 18 months have been saying, what are you going to do about it? And they just go ahead and do stuff that is clearly not legal. And it takes a lot of time and money and effort to slap them back into place. And that's what we're trying to do at Children's Health Defense. And we're so happy that there are other groups like Liberty Counsel that are doing that, and many more today than there were 18 months ago. So we're thrilled for that. But we do have to bring these people back in line. They have to be sued. And they have to, and people have to demonstrate, right? People have to show their discontent. People have to reach out to their elected officials and say, this is, and just, putting up signs in stores that say, we do not discriminate. We will not participate in this reintroduction of segregation in the United States. We just won't do it.
Yeah, all these sides play together. There's not one single pathway to a win. So it's the grassroots, the boots on the ground, the advocacy, the legal fight, just educating your neighbors from a place of love to change hearts and minds. So this news you brought today, Mary, could not have come at a more important time. I think everyone was just feeling crushed after the sweeping mandates on Thursday of last week. So this was excellent news to hear about the New York healthcare workers, giving that TRO. Do you have any parting words for us and our audience, in terms of the times that we are in right now, and just the vision to hold as we move forward in this battle?
We're on the right side of history. What we're fighting for was won after World War II. The right of the human subject is the consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. That's what we're fighting for. The law is on our side. The ethics are on our side. The science is on our side. The safety is on our side. There are alternatives to these vaccines. They are not the only answer as is being proposed to us. So stand your ground, feel, empowered, feel connected to the millions of people who are rejecting. And, President Biden represented that it's 80 million. Del Bigtree yesterday said it's more like, 150 million. I'm not really sure, but the point is, you are not alone if you're feeling a bit beleaguered at this point. Stick with it. You're on the right side of history, and you may be protecting your life and that of your family.
Very true. Thank you so much, Mary. I mean, this show timing could not have been more perfect.
No, perfect timing. Thank you, ladies.
I needed
Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure. I'd be delighted to come again. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh my God, Amy, I needed that.
I know. We needed that lift. I mean, after last Thursday, I think everybody was crushed, just worried, scared, upset, angry. I mean, it was just such an awful press conference to listen to. So this news could not have come at a more important time. I think it's lighting the way for more positive news to come. And the people are rising, right? I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about what's been going on the last few days and for the rest of this week, right?
Yeah, this last week has been crazy. Yesterday being at the rally was exactly what I needed to kind of get that fiery spirit going back in me and just be reminded that so many more people are showing up and waking up. When I looked around at the crowd yesterday, seeing so many new faces and seeing people tell me for the first time, this is the first time they've ever been to a rally. They could not believe the energy. They could not believe how passionate people were, the signs, the thought and the attention that went into the signs that people made, the speakers. I mean, Trisha Lindsay yesterday talking about the game is over when we all stand up. It's that meme with the, they have them bending down and they have the chessboard on their backs. And it's like, we looked out and we see people are standing up. People are fed up. People are realizing and waking up from the slumber of saying, oh, if I just do X, then Y will happen. And, we've been dangling the carrot and moving the benchmark for 18 months now. And I think for a large part of the population, people are seeing that the only way this is going to end is when we say enough is enough. And I think that President Biden's speech last week really shook people up on both sides of the aisle. It doesn't matter what religion, what race, what orientation sexually you are, everybody is up in arms. And the very strange thing to me, and I said this yesterday when I spoke, is you have Kamala Harris on one side of the world talking about my body, my choice when it comes to abortion. And then you have President Biden talking about he's losing his patience with the unvaccinated people, and it's not about freedom. I feel like they don't have their talking points together. Like
more hypocrisy.
Yeah. I mean, my body, my choice. I should be able to decide what comes out of my body and what goes into my body, if that's what you want to say. You can't do one without the other. So I think that the hypocrisy is really coming on strong right now. Del Bigtree was amazing.
He was amazing. Oh,
literally the power. I was right in front of the stage and watching him speak and just seeing like his face would get all red and you could just feel like body, mind, and soul, like everything was in there. And he said yesterday, you know, and this is applicable because I have friends that have been calling me all morning that are like, I don't know what to do. The deadline is approaching. They feel like the walls are closing in on them. And it's not just about you as the individual. He said yesterday, this is about all your brothers and sisters right here standing with you. There are millions of us. There's so many people that feel the way that you do. And if you collapse and you cave in and you take that shot, you're not only letting yourself down, but you're letting all of your brothers and sisters down. So we have to hold the line. We have to stay strong. We have to allow these lawsuits to play out in the court and see what comes. If the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is not just merely a piece of toilet paper at this point, I have to believe that these lawsuits will come out in our favor and that this is just going to be a moment in history that is going to be difficult. I mean, we look at history, we learn from history. This is not the first time that something like this has happened in the world. Right. I think that it's probably the most egregious overreach that we've ever seen in our lives.
I think it's actually going to backfire. And we're seeing it today, right? So we're seeing the news now, great news on this one lawsuit in New York. It's showing that the rule of law will win. And the numbers in New York City were phenomenal. I mean, as an activist in New York for the last, 7 years, we never got numbers like that in the city. It brought tears to my eyes. There were so many people there, so many different people who'd never been in the medical, freedom movement. And this is just amazing that they're now waking up. So I feel like the brute forces of our government and the overreach and the mandates is actually helping us. It's waking up more people. It's bringing more people's attention to an issue they never cared about before because it never impacted them. Mothers of vaccine-injured children for years have been screaming and not being heard and ignored. Parents who've had their rights taken away in the states where religious exemptions were gone, have been screaming about our rights and, being ignored. Now that it is impacting everyone, people are waking up. And I think Trisha had some amazing language about that yesterday. It was just so powerful.
It was super powerful. And the truth is, people don't show up until, like you said, it shows up on their doorstep. So the fact that they're hitting every sector, every industry from every angle is really a blessing. It doesn't feel that way, but the more people that are touched by this, the more people that are going to show up and be present for these protests and these rallies and making the phone calls and doing the advocacy things. Because the truth is, that's the only way that things change. I said when I spoke yesterday, freedom isn't free. We've kind of been coasting along for a while. And now that the rubber has met the road and they're really trying to push this new world order on us and shove it down our throats, people are going to see now what they're made of. I mean, you have to have a very strong constitution to do this work. And I get the phone calls and the messages all the time. I'm sure you do too. It is exhausting. I am exhausted. Amy is exhausted. Everyone that's working for CHD, we are exhausted. It is a lot, but that doesn't mean that we have to stop. Some days you have to slow down, take a breath, and then come back in stronger. But this is not the time to fold, to give up, to throw in the towel. This is the time to fight harder than you've ever fought in your life. And when you need a reminder of why, look at your child or your grandchild and remind yourself what's at stake, because it's so much bigger than this moment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what a way to kick off walkout week, right? So in New York City, thousands upon thousands and thousands of people, and this is just going to continue all week, right? So we have walkout week planned, and this is, peaceful noncompliance. This is the best way we can push back people walking out of their jobs against employer mandates, parents pulling their kids if their masks are being mandated in their schools, and just showing up in huge numbers. And we know this is going to continue to happen throughout the rest of the week and throughout the rest of the country.
Absolutely. And just to clarify, because there's been some questions about this walkout, like, are we giving up? No, we are not giving up. We are not walking out saying, okay, you win, we're not going to be here. We're walking out to show our numbers, to show the force of parents and educators and healthcare workers and emergency workers and union workers who are all being mandated, whether it's the mask or the vaccine or anything else. It is our right to say no. We will not comply with this. And this peaceful noncompliance, this civil disobedience that Bobby Kennedy spoke about in that video that we showed last week, this is the time for it. So it's an act of peaceful noncompliance, and it's a way to show strength in numbers. So don't take it as a way of giving up. You are literally just showing where you stand and drawing the line in the sand. And that's all that we're asking you to do. However you can participate, whether it's for one day or for the full week, pull your children out, give them a lesson in what it means to be part of constitutional freedoms, to show up, to lobby, to be a stand for something in the face of all the things that are happening right now. It is the best lesson you can give to your children. And if you fall into any other of those sectors, let us know. If you have a protest at a hospital that you're working at where you have a group of people, I have a friend who has like 200 nurses and healthcare workers in her hospital that are waiting for religious exemptions. And she's like, we're ready to walk out. Let's do it. We want to be there. We want to support you. We want to be able to give you a platform to share what you're doing. That's what this entire thing is about. That's why Aimee and I work for Children's Health Defense, to give you a voice and to make sure that all of the grassroots efforts are being covered and amplified.
And these numbers are really making impact. I don't know if you saw, Stephanie, there was news that a hospital in upstate New York literally had to pause all labor and delivery. They cannot take in pregnant patients because they just don't have enough nurses. And this is going to happen to so many hospitals, so many clinics, so many home care aid service providers. It could potentially collapse our entire healthcare system. So I think that the powers that be that are pushing these brute force mandates completely underestimated the power of the people. Absolutely. How many people would just stand strong, shoulder to shoulder, in unity, in solidarity to say no. Even some people who did take the vaccine. You know, I'm hearing stories from healthcare workers who say, you know what, I did take it, but I stand here with my colleagues, my nurses, you know, my physicians who don't want to take it because I know they had COVID, they have natural immunity. Why should they be forced? So these numbers are growing and they're only going to continue. And as Tricia said yesterday in the rally a number of times, we are winning.
Oh, we are. You know what I love? Did you see that sign last week of the two people at the rally that had the sign on their back? I am vaccinated. I am vaccinated. And we stand together with mandates in their hands. That is literally the picture of unity that we all
right
now. That's what it's about.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Far and wide, we kicked off yesterday in New York, but there are so many protests going on all over the world this week and beyond. I know September 18th is a big day. It's the worldwide rally. There are rallies happening in New York City, in New Jersey, in Oregon, in California, so many different places. So we wanted to bring on someone who's actually helping to organize some grassroots on the ground here. Catherine Green, she's a natural medicine and homeopathy student since 2004 and a practitioner since 2007. She's been vaccine injury aware since 1995, having witnessed adverse events multiple times. She's experienced in business, agriculture, government, and conservation. She's an Oregonian fighting for medical freedom, as well as government and corporate accountability. And she is the president of our Oregon chapter. Catherine Green, welcome to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Welcome, Catherine.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so excited over the news we just got. You know, that's amazing.
So uplifting, right?
Right? That in New York, which in some ways has been the heart of the beast that we're dealing with, that has such unfair and brutal restrictions upon its populations, for them to get a judge to stand up and apply law. And this is what's happening. We have lost the rule of law. I listened to Mary Holland, and it's so true. It's appalling. We've lost integrity in medicine. We've lost freedom as individuals. We've lost the truth coming out of any official body when it comes to medicine or pharmaceutical products or liabilities. It's just a really toxic environment for people to be in. And here in Oregon, we have more natural health practitioners, whether they're chiropractors, naturopaths, traditional Chinese medicine, all the acupuncturists, more aware people than any place I've ever been. And for our governor, Kate Brown, to mandate that every single healthcare worker take these shots regardless, right, of their previous status of immunity or having had COVID, whether they've had a previous vaccine injury or not, whether they have religious objections to this or not, to threaten them. I mean, coercion is not informed consent. Blackmail, frankly, is not informed consent. For them to take these steps, in my opinion, personal opinion, it's criminal behavior. It just is. And sometimes it's misguided, right? Sometimes they think the vaccine is going to get them out of this predicament that we're in, but the evidence is showing that's not the case. And our governor has made it mandated against pharmacists being able to fill a doctor's prescription for either ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine. I mean, we really have a problem in this state. And frankly, I think it comes from a corruption. It just comes from pharma having way too much impact. The problem with ivermectin is that it's safe, it's cheap, and it's so inexpensive. Pharma doesn't want its use. It's just that simple.
It's so true. So my mom, I didn't get to talk about, but my mom had COVID related pneumonia last week, and she was in and out of the hospital for the last couple of days. And it was remarkable to me how her oxygen levels were low, and they sent her home with oxycodone, which was causing her issues with her oxygen. Speaking to her doctor and just asking basic, simple, common sense questions, I was met with this defensive wall of armor. Like, how dare you question me when I'm the physician? And, you know, it was crazy because she had ivermectin in her house, and everyone's like, don't take it, don't take it, don't take it. So the fact that people are questioning ivermectin is remarkable to me, because I would love to know how many people have been injured or killed by ivermectin. When you look at the numbers, the overwhelming numbers of how many people have been injured and killed by this injection, it's staggering, and yet you hear nothing about it. So like you said, Catherine, because it's cheap and because it already exists and they don't have any patents on it or anything related to this specific pandemic, you will never hear them talking about a therapeutic. And that's really sad, unfortunately, because for a lot of people, the cost was their life. And, you know, those lives will never come back. We will never be able to bring back the people who were mistreated during this pandemic and are still being mistreated. My mother was in the hospital for 4 days in the emergency room. She was left by herself. I could not go in with her. I could not even give her her bag to say goodbye to her. She was left like a dog in the ER with the door closed. No one checked on her for 5 hours. 5 hours. No food, no muffin, no cracker, no trip to the bathroom. She walked to the bathroom on painkillers in excruciating pain, came back to her oxygen being removed from her room. And then she was finally placed in a room. She wasn't able to shower for 5 days. They don't give you a shower in the COVID ward. And she wasn't allowed to walk around outside of her room. Her room was closed. It was a 2x4 that she was sharing with another patient, and she was not allowed to set foot out of that room. It's despicable. It's absolutely despicable.
I've heard this again and again, and there's just a violence being fomented against those who are ill, which is just so inappropriate. It's un-American. It's inhuman, frankly. It's against the Hippocratic Oath. It's against everything that doctors and nurses are pledged to do. And there's so many that are fed up. And here in Oregon, we are having a large rally that just has coalesced on its own of at least 5 to 10 different groups, many for medical freedom, but many who are, they're faced with the loss of their livelihoods. They've lost their jobs. They've lost their businesses already. I mean, Kate Brown shut us down so phenomenally that many businesses have closed up shop. People are leaving the state in huge numbers. I mean, I don't know that we'll have chiropractors anymore if these new lawsuits aren't won and stays are not granted by courts, and this government aggression and threats and overreach is not held at bay. I think that the numbers coming up, the huge rallies, will help tremendously. They need to see that we're all standing together. As you said, it doesn't matter if you've chosen to take the vaccine or chosen not to take the vaccine. That's not the point. The point is you have a right to make your own medical decisions and decide what goes into your body. And if you choose not to take instructions to force your cells into manufacturing the spike protein, I think you have a right to say no to that. I have a right to use my immune system the way God intended me to, right? And for it to maintain its flexibility and be able to fight other viruses and all of the variants we hear are arising. And there's dangers with vaccines. You can't mandate something that might kill someone. That's just crazy. And frankly, common sense and human decency seems to have flown out the room in order to bring this agenda across at all costs, no matter what the cost. The issue here in Oregon is, Idaho's just right across the border. And the fact is, we have 5 counties that have tried to flee the state of Oregon and join Idaho because they're not in alignment with what's happening up in Salem. So it is strange times indeed.
Yeah, these democratic states are just awful right now with the oppressive nature. And, it's really just a medical mafia, right? So it's, the pharmaceutical company greed, and then you have government, siding with them and intruding. And it's really, when you think about and break down the mandates, completely anti-science. We know that the injection does not stop transmission person to person. We know that it's killing and harming people. And we're seeing in different parts of the world with the highest rates of uptake, whether it's Israel or Britain, they still have exploding number of cases. It's just not working. So to mandate something that doesn't work, harms and kills, and doesn't stop the spread, it's just completely anti-science. But I think we are winning and we're rising up, which is great.
It is insane. I mean, it really is insane. If you were not seeing so much harm, you would go, this is just insane and it's laughable, but it's not, because of the lives that have been lost and are still being lost because they're withholding treatment and they're making fun of it. But, the word is getting out. It's percolating through. You see the agenda's storyline cracking open all over the place. I mean, I'm thrilled to see India suing the WHO for murder, because one state followed the American model with remdesivir and ventilators and no ivermectin and lost hundreds of thousands of people, apparently. And then other states went the ivermectin path and squashed COVID immediately. So this world communicates. I guess their last ploy would be to pull down the internet completely so that nobody can talk to one another anymore, but we'll still find a way. I mean, frankly, I'm from the era before the computer world, so to speak, and before cell phones, and we did manage. I watched my friends and family members deal with the Vietnam War and Watergate and everything that went on then, and it's just shocking to see that we're in another amplified version of that. This is a more artificial, false reality, harming many more people than that ever did. So it's shocking to me. I don't understand when people started trusting the government. Frankly, I grew up knowing not to, but I'm a child of the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So many people that do. I had someone tell me the other day that they will take every booster on the schedule without question because they believe in the science. And they also continue to say that they also feel that people who are COVID positive that did not get the vaccine should not be allowed treatment in the hospital. This is actually something that someone said. It's remarkable to me, the hatred and the just vitriol, like how disgusting people are being towards one another. And it's, at the end of the day, there is no one size fits all. And that's something that we've seen beyond a shadow of a doubt. Someone's perfect food can be someone else's poison. What makes vaccines any different? There is no one size fits all. And I think we need to keep saying that over and over again for the people in the back that haven't yet heard it. And we're so thankful that you're doing this work. So let's tell people where they can go if they're in or around the Oregon area to come and join you on September 18th.
Absolutely. So this is a large rally at the Capitol, right beside the state Capitol building in Salem, Oregon. It officially starts at 12 and officially ends at 2, but I imagine it's going to go a lot longer than that, right? So there will be many people showing up early. It is primarily for our healthcare workers that this rally was formed, but it is for everyone who's been impacted by the COVID regulations and mandates that have been just wielded so aggressively in our state. It's also for the children. They've masked children here so heavily that we had athletes collapsing because they're mandating masks outdoors. I mean, there is no common sense. So everyone's up in arms. Everyone's up in arms. I mean, it's coming to the point where absolutely everyone that I know in Oregon is completely fed up with the governor and the Oregon Health Authority and our version of OSHA and their behaviors. So I'm hoping to see a large rally show up at the Capitol.
We will be there with you in spirit, and I'm going to go ahead and show the image. So if you're in or around the Oregon area, here are the details. If you want to take a screenshot at the Oregon State Capitol, Saturday, September 18th, which is this Saturday at noon. So come be there with Catherine and everyone that will be there with her. You said there's quite a few groups that will be there. So I'm wishing you the best. Hopefully we'll get you to stream live to CHD Live. So stay tuned for that, so we can get updates live from Oregon as you guys roll out your rally. And we'll
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for everything you do for the CHD chapter in your state. And we hope you guys have a huge turnout on Thursday. We hope thousands upon thousands of people show up at your state capitol.
Thank you. Blessings to everyone in the fight. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
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 So besides Oregon, we have one in San Francisco. So
San Francisco too. Yep.
Saturday, September 18th. If you're in the California area, definitely go over to San Francisco City Hall. Simone Golds will be there with Americans Frontline Doctors. We have people from our Children's Health Defense chapter in California that will be there, and B is for Vaccine, our friend Josh Coleman. Mm-hmm. So make sure that you go out there. If you're in that area, we need to be out in mass. That is the lesson of the day. If you're not out there in civil disobedience and peaceful noncompliance, ask yourself why, what you need to let go of, and what you need to invite in to be brave and to be bold and to be out there being the change that we wish to see in the world. So with that being said, we have all the resources and tools that you need right here at childrenshealthdefense.org. So we end every show with a little screen share so that you can see all the resources available to you, so that you know where you can go if you're dealing with mandates or anything in your state. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen, and we're going to take you through all of those lovely things. Here we go.
So for those of you, if you are not already signed up as a subscriber to the Defender, please, as we say every week, our biggest issue is censorship. They don't want the information out there. They don't want the truth out there, but we share it daily. The Defender puts out amazing content every day. You're getting the latest in news, breaking updates on these lawsuits, as we just shared today. And all other information that you're just not going to get anywhere else in mainstream media. So it's free to sign up, upper right-hand corner. Just click, fill out your email, and you'll get it every day in your inbox. Also on our homepage, we have our Stop Mandates. This is our emergency campaign. Also is where you click here to learn more about Walkout Week. So Walkout Week happening all week, as we talked about. Kicked it off in New York City. Thursday, we have San Francisco, Oregon. I'm hearing about all other walkouts happening a lot with the schools as well. I know lots of groups of parents and other groups, that are really defending liberties and parental rights have planned and organized lots of walkouts within their school, especially when the schools are forcing the mask on their children. So click through to all of that to learn more, and stay tuned on all the legal updates. Also, our community page, if you click on Defender in our navigation bar and scroll all the way down, you'll see community. And this is where we share all of our local news, events, articles, what's happening around the world and in each state. So we have a community calendar where we show any types of rallies or big events. There's an article section where we talk about, the latest news and what's happening with our activists who are on the ground, any new lawsuits that are won. All of it will be shared here, and any major campaign or efforts as well. Also on our homepage, we have our advocacy portal. So if you just go straight on the homepage and you click the Take Action box, this is where we're going to have any call to actions or action alerts. Right now, we want people to ask their reps and to ask President Biden to investigate Fauci. There was just a whole other FOIA request that happened, another 900 pages of documentation that The Intercept got that is really proving what Senator Rand Paul has been alleging all along, that Fauci and his NIH agency really were behind this gain of function research with Wuhan Institute. So now all these documents have been secured through, FOIA litigation, and it's quite incriminating. So click through on our homepage, click Take Action, and follow through on this. It's a template letter. It takes you just a few seconds. It will immediately contact all of your elected officials and President Biden and say that you demand that Fauci be investigated. Also on our website, you will see that Bobby's book is about to come out very soon. We can't wait for this. This is the Real Anthony Fauci book. He has spent a tremendous amount of time pulling together the history and what has gone on behind these kind of, human crimes that have happened with Fauci, going all the way back to the AIDS epidemic till now with the coronavirus pandemic. So pre-sales for his book are available. You can buy it now on Amazon, a couple other providers. So please sign up now for your pre-sale copy of his book.
Excellent. And as always, we want to hear from you. If there's anything happening in your neck of the woods, any legislation, good, bad, or indifferent, if you have a rally or any kind of initiative that you're working on, please feel free to reach out to us at advocacy@childrenshealthdefense.org. Let us know what's happening. We'd be happy to co-write an article with you, have you come on the show to discuss whatever initiatives you're working on so that we can give you a platform to share. And as always, tune in every week, our new time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, here on CHD Live for the Community Corner. We'll be coming to you with more great information. Next week, we have Kevin Jenkins and Dr. Aaron Lewis coming on, so that'll be a really exciting show. Set a clock so that you know to come on. If you can't catch us live, you can always catch us on the replay. And in any case, right now, remember, it is the most important time to be a defender of children's health, to be a defender of freedom, to be a defender of constitutional rights. This is the time to show up, to stand up, to be part of the movement, to be the change that you wish to see in the world. So get with like-minded, like-hearted people, organize, 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 and remember that the game is over when we all stand up. So keep standing up and showing up. We're cheering you on, and we are with you in spirit wherever you are in the world. Sending you all so much love, so much light. We'll be back with you next week. Have a great week.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.